my God, really? Holy cow, neat. The first times I read a manga physically and laughed out loud. I don't think I've seen Legoshi cry, like heaving cry. But I feel like he'd be the one to get closest. He'd be like, yo, that's mean. They made Aiden look like me. They took my headshots, and that was wild to think about. I get to say the performances, the original voice actors are better. As a dub actor.
You're watching convention coverage.
My name is Jonah Scott. I am a voice actor for video games and anime, and I do the odd commercial every now and again. You may know me as Legoshi in Beastars. I voice Aiden Caldwell in Dying Light 2 that came out earlier this year. I voice Joe in Skate the Infinity. I voice the Househusband, Tatsu, in Way of the Househusband. And many more. You go to my BTVA or Google me or whatever. But you guys have the sum of all human knowledge in your pockets, right? Okay, yeah, you guys got phones, right? Anyway, I'm gonna open up the floor to some questions. For sure. All right.
How was it playing Katakuri in One Piece? Like, how did you react? How did you come about finding the voice? Yeah.
Well, generally for a lot of stuff, you don't get auditions. A lot of it is cast in-house. They keep a lot of it under wraps. But this was near the tail end of where everything was open to pretty much everybody. They're a little more selective with who they decide to bring into their in-house dubs. And that was when they put out more auditions. So I got to audition for all the brothers, and Katakuri is my favorite character in One Piece. So I put a lot of effort into making sure that he sounded how I picture him in the head. I really like the German dub of Katakuri, so I kind of took a little bit of inspiration from that too. He's a really great guy. If you don't follow him, you should. I shrieked when I figured it out. When I got the, it wasn't even an email. There's some friends that are privy to the schedule, right? And they're just like, you're on the schedule for One Piece, and I'm like, cool, all right. I've done like bits in One Piece before, so you can bring me in, have Mike McFarlane tell me to yell as a pirate a couple times, and that's it. If you touch One Piece as an anime voice actor, that's like a bucket list thing, right? You're like, I want to touch One Piece in some way, because it's such a long running show. But they had me blocked out for like 3 days for like 3 weeks. And it was like 12 hours of recording, in the beginning of the day and at the end of the day. And I'm like, that's got to be something bigger than what I think. And they're like, we think you're probably Katakuri. No, I'm not telling you you're cast or anything, but like from the hours you're working and from the show and what we're recording, you're probably Katakuri. I'm not casting you or anything. No, don't get your hopes up or anything. But I got an email and then followed that up whenever we get something big from our agent. Whenever we book something big, they always give us a phone call on a Friday to give us some like really good news to end out the week. And that was that week's really good news. And I was terrified. I was very excited, but I was terrified because it's One Piece. You can't screw that up. A lot of people were very happy that I got to, that when I announced the character, a lot of people were like, okay, you're going to do a good job. But there was a lot of waiting to get to that point because I can't, the dub is so backed up. But I did what I thought to be one of the most intense screams of my entire career in that fight. I used Katakuri as a way to get other roles too, because I would email casting directors and be like, "Hey, so while you haven't been working with me, but I got to voice Katakuri in One Piece, who has the longest fight in anime history to date. So that's pretty cool. There's like 25 something episodes, something like that. But it's a really cool opportunity. A few of my friends came to me and they're like, yeah, you're gonna do a really good job, because everybody who works on the show loves the show. There's no reason that you want to accept a part in One Piece if you don't like it, right? Unlike some other jobs, you're just like, you want to put your all into it because it is One Piece. So he's my top 5 for sure. He's one of my favorite characters of all time, especially in One Piece. Even before I got the audition, love it. And he came back and I don't want to spoil anything, but
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, okay. And I was just like, oh my God, really? Holy cow, neat. But yeah, it's exciting. It's super cool. I hope he comes back for even more stuff. I love the sound of his voice.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Thank you. Good question.
How was your experience dubbing Given, especially since it was a big deal, since it was an almost completely LGBT cast for a BL series?
Given is very special to me because I'm bisexual, and I.
Yay!
All right, way to go! Thank you guys. I'm bisexual, and because of that, there's another layer to all the performances that I give as who I perform bisexual. Legoshi, I perform as a bisexual. Akihiko is obviously canonically bisexual. Joe is kind of canonically bisexual in some way. So there's another layer of emotion that goes into that. And for Given in particular, the director David Vald is one of the most stupendous men I've ever met. He is so animated. He is so kind. He is so good at what he does, and he's been involved in the industry long enough to know that this was important. One of David's biggest things going into this is I want to publicize this. I want to show this off, show the actors off, show the show off again. He's like, I know it's 2 years old. I don't give a I know it's old, but this is important. And it really is. I can't overstate how important accurate representation is in media, but not only that, but getting the opportunity to be that representation is another kind of weight on the yoke of performing a character like this. But it's remarkably freeing to be yourself in a character. It's crazy to see yourself in a character. There are so many, even just like small cutaways in that show where I'm just like, oh my God, Akihiko's me. Like, oh my God, I've experienced this before. There's a small little monologue, I don't want to spoil too much, but there's a small little monologue that Akihiko gives where, in so many terms, he says, it's okay to like dudes. It's fine. I'm not, who's judging you, dude? Nobody. It's cool. It's actually cool to like guys. Like, and nobody's like looking at you weird. What you're feeling isn't wrong. What you're feeling isn't, against the rules or anything like that. And I performed Akihiko in a way that I wanted to talk to myself. Does that make sense? I needed somebody. I needed somebody like Akihiko in my life to be like, dude, it's somebody I really respected to be like, dude, it's cool. Don't worry about it. It's fine. You can just live the rest of your life and not have to like make that everything, right? But yeah, I struggle to find the words sometimes because it's so emotionally involved. But it's very important. If you guys haven't seen the Given dub, please do. It is predominantly, if not all, LGBTQ cast. Every single character, from toe to tip. And we put a lot of effort and love into it. Even in the movie that also a companion piece has been dubbed. And I got the weeb opportunity to act across of J. Michael Tatum, which was mind-blowing. The man is a tour de force, and he got it. He gets it. He understood what I was going for, and he invited me over to his place to hang out with him and Brandon and their Frenchies. They're great. They are wonderful people and some of the best people that I've ever met in my life. So making friends was another great part of that show. I can't praise it enough. So thank you for your question. Thank you for watching the show. Please, guys, watch the dub of Given and the movie. It's fantastic.
What was it like voicing Tatsu from Way of the Househusband, and do you have any favorite scenes from the show?
I do. Tatsu was... I knew of Way of the Househusband before I got the audition. So when I got the audition, I knew immediately, I'm like, this is Tatsu. I had 4 volumes of the manga on my manga shelf already, and I had read through them all. I loved it. I've laughed. It was one of the first times I read a manga physically and laughed out loud at like 1:30 in the morning, waking up my roommates. And they're like, what are you laughing at? I'm like, have you read this? This is hilarious. But I honestly did not think I would get the part when I auditioned. And it was between me and 4 other actors or something like that. And I booked it. And obviously I was very excited because this... not only is it a character, but it is a character that is based on a seiyuu. So it's basically Kenjiro Tsuda. It's Tsuda-san. And I voice a couple of Tsuda-san's characters. And first of all, it is an incredible honor to attempt to engage in what Tsuda-san does with Tatsu. There's just a certain timbre that is impossible for me to recreate. There's very few times in dubbing where you're just like, you know, I'm gonna touch this and try and do as best as I can, but Suda-san is this character, is the physically everything. So I did. He kind of, you know, cornered the whole, you know, badass yakuza market there. So I had to do whatever the West would kind of associate with that, because samurai culture and yakuza culture kind of bleed into each other a lot, and they formed their own like micro culture over there in Japan, which really doesn't have any sort of analog here in the United States beyond action movies, beyond John Wick, beyond, you know, like the action movie one-liner kind of as cool as you can sound person. So my I guess my motivation going in to record Tatsu was every single line that he has to sound as cool as possible. Every single line that he says has to sound as over the top as it can in the moment. And people loved it. They ran with it. I try and match the same timbre as Suda-san, but we had to rewrite a lot of the jokes because, you know, we wanted to make sure that the heart of even if it is like a Japanese cultural joke, we had to make sure the heart of that joke stayed there, but we had to rewrite a lot of the things around it to make sure that, you know, there's not a whole lot of animation in it, but there's still lip flaps, you know, there's still on and off portions, we still have to match timing, we still have to match meter, we still have to match, you know, intention and things like that. But it is also, recording Househusband is one of the fastest things that we do, because with Netflix, it is, you got to get things done quick. So for this most recent season, we recorded all of it in 2 weeks. And it was like, you know, 12-hour days of going in. And if you've seen the show, season 2's out, by the way, if you want to go watch it. It came out a couple weeks ago. I think it came out on Christmas, or New Year's Day. But this most recent season, he yells everything. And unless it's like really low and down here, he yells it all. And like, not just yells, but he screams it all. And it's really intense, and it's very vocally stressful sometimes. So we would have to take like a day off so I could rest my voice, and we'd take a break and then come back in and record more. Because I know for a fact, Suda-san didn't have to sit down and yell the entire thing in one go, right? He had the opportunity to make it sound really cool, and I wanted that opportunity as well. But Househusband is, again, one of my top 5 characters. The guy's iconic. I went to a gyoza place in Little Tokyo the other day with a few friends of mine. We did a ramen challenge where you'd eat spicy ramen and you get it for free, you know, that kind of thing. Yeah, exactly. And they were handing out flyers, and Househusband was on the flyer. And I'm like, look, guys, I'm an ad. It's crazy. This guy's everywhere. Yeah, and I got free gyoza because I told the waiter that I voiced the character. And I'm like, hey, can I get like a plate of gyoza? And he's like, dude, whatever, it's fine. That's cool. It's just neat that you came and said hi. But yeah, Tatsu's cultural icon, and it's all thanks to Kenji Tsuda, but I touched it too.
And I think, also, what's your favorite scenes from the show?
Oh, right. In the most recent one, in the most recent season 2, the last episode, Tatsu is walking around and he realizes that there's these people these elderly people who own mom and pop shops. And he realizes that the mom and pop shops are the ones that sell some of the best things in Tokyo, but they're being beat out by big box stores and Amazon and things like that. So he does what, you know, any old, like, you know, Yakuza from the 60s would do, and he starts like selling things on the side of the street, like a fish vendor, like a fishmonger, and he does it slices, it dices, it chicken fried rices, and that kind of thing, and it's for like a solid 3 minutes, and I acted my butt off for that. It sounds really good. I went and listened to it the other day, and I'm like, all right, cool. Out of all of these things, I think this one probably sounds the best. But there are some, whenever I get to swear, Tatsu sounds so good when he swears. I love it. It just sounds so good. It's something else. So yeah, whenever I get off a juicy curse, that's pretty nice.
Thank you so much for your time, Jonah.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it.
In interviews, you've mentioned you have studied in theater in the past, and I was wondering, with the transition from stage into a booth, where there's a lot of like timing and with lip flaps and meter, as you mentioned, was there a difficult transition in trying to discover or develop character from the stage experience into the voice acting experience, and how did you grow into that?
That's a very good question. So on stage, we are taught to be, broad, to act to the back row. There's no room, really, for subtlety in theater. One thing that I really, really like about voice acting is there is room enough for everything. You can be as subtle as you can, as you possibly want. You can, breathing even just gets picked up by the microphone. So you can be as subtle as you want, or you can be as big, broad, and cartoony as you want, as much of a caricature as you want. You got on one side you got Tatsu, or Formaggio and JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. It's JoJo's. Everybody yells, right? That's just how it is. And then on the other end you get characters like Johnny Bolt, who have these really intimate moments where he's laying nude with a woman and talking about college and talking about his life and his expectations out of life and things like that. And then you can get super intimate and subtle. That's one thing that I really think you can't get on film even. You can't get on camera. You can't get on stage, right? This is a joining of mediums that I think is truly unique. Video games as well is the same. You're in a booth doing the same thing. Transitioning was very gradual for me because I went to college for theater. I got a degree in musical theater, a minor in broadcast journalism. So a lot of what I learned and what I did during college convoluted into, voiceover. While I was in college, I was recording things for fan projects in my dorm room. I was recording, fan visual novels in my dorm room. With my Rock Band microphone and my laptop, it was really, really scuffed. But a lot of it was skills that I would use more so than anything I was doing in college. I took a math class. I don't use any math. I personally don't use any math, except maybe, a compression kind of ratio or something like that. I don't use any math. A lot of what I learned in college from radio is super applicable to voiceover. I did college radio. It's also super applicable to Twitch streaming because you're basically a radio DJ for a very niche group of individuals and you're doing things. The acting part of it kind of becomes, after you do it for 7 to 10 years, it becomes second nature. It's hard to explain it. And that's why I'm very particular about telling people to go and take classes because you really want to make sure that the person who is teaching you is qualified to teach you. Is not just a voice actor that has had 5 roles. That doesn't mean they're qualified to teach you how to act at all. That means they know how to book 5 roles, right? So if you're going to learn how to voice act, you want to make sure that the person is vetted, and if you can't get to college for voice acting, which is almost impossible, even USC, which is the public acting college, you know what I mean? There's one class and it's once 2 semesters or something like that. Very niche. So if you're going to take classes and you want to learn how to cross the acting worlds of stage and voiceover into anime voice acting or video game voice acting or even doing just commercials or what have you, make sure you vet your teachers. Make sure that they are acting teachers. And there are people that teach voiceover. That's fine. That's super niche. But don't go to a voiceover class to learn how to act. You need to learn how to act from an acting professor, from an acting teacher, somebody that's been... Even a lot of acting teachers have never performed professionally, but they have studied from a liberal arts perspective. And then you get theory, and then you get different kinds of ideas that you can grab from Stanislavski, different kinds of ideas that you can grab from Uta Hagen and even more modern masters that would really help you pave your way as an actor and a professional. The one thing that I wish I learned after moving out to LA was business. I can act anywhere. I can act, you just give me lines and I'll do it and it'll sound real, but I can't run a business. I don't know how to run a business, so I need people to help me learn how to do that myself. It's a lot of making you run your own business when you're a voice actor and a contractor. So it's a lot of if you're going to learn how to act, please make sure the person who's teaching you is an acting teacher. College is really kind of the best way to go about that. That's what I did. But yeah, I hope that answered your question. That was fairly rambling.
Definitely does. Thank you.
I do appreciate your time. Thank you so much for the question,
Cheers.
brothers. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I wanted to know, how did you get into VTubing?
How to get into VTubing? So I have a couple of friends that were dipping their toes in. You guys may know Sayu, VTuber. He's no secret that he's a good friend of mine, Alejandro Saab. We have known Alejandro for over a decade at this point. We're pretty tight. And he came to me actually a couple of years ago, and he's like, "Hey, so what do you think about VTubing?" And I'm like, I've been thinking about doing it myself. It seems just like an inevitable phase for an anime voice actor to have a persona based on them, and then just, instead of having hot lights in your face streaming, you just have a hot guy that's like talking out of, using your voice or whatever, right? And then he pulled it off. I've been following, Sayu for a long time. And then I've had another friend, Merriweather, who I've been friends with for about 10 years at this point. We've been business associates. I've worked on his projects. He's worked on mine. And he's the guy that does a lot of the lore and world building for VShojo. And he does a lot of their like lore reveals and lore comics. And I voice characters in those lore comics and lore reveals. And that kind of I was at a convention with him a year and a half ago. And he came up to me at my booth, and I'm like, "Oh, Mary, nice to finally see you again in person. We haven't seen each other in years." And he's like, "So, when are you going to get a VTuber?" And I'm like, "What? That's out of left field. I'm just starting my voiceover career." But he's like, "This is something you should probably look into. This is something you should probably try and figure out." So I sat down and did a lot of research, and that's something that I really enjoy, is discovering acting styles. I was really into Bunraku puppetry for a while. I was into, no theater. I was into a lot of Dadaist theater and things like that a while back. I really love discovering new acting styles. And VTubing is an acting style at this point. It just is. It's puppetry. VTubing is puppetry. And I was able to pull a lot of what I learned. I took a puppetry class in college. I was able to pull a lot of what I learned from puppetry class and put it into VTubing. I do the straight man sketch I have a little pet snail on my VTuber. Well, he's not a snail. He's an alien. It's a long story. But I have a little pet snail, and he doesn't talk, but I talk to him. And we have the straight man as he's the straight man, and I'm trying to like one half of a conversation that you're listening in on, and it's funny how I react to something you can't hear. It's like, and then what happened? Oh man, and what did you do about the bomb? Like, and then it just kind of develops a story as things go on, and I think that's super entertaining. I'm using VTubing at this point as a way to expand on what you can do creatively with yourself, maybe one other person. A lot of people use it for like React content. A lot of people use it for gaming, just so you can focus on the game and things like that. I'm trying to find out ways to expand it on like the voiceover side. I'm like, okay, who can we rope in and do sketches with? Who can we rope in and have a good time with? I know if you guys know Ryan McKeon, who voices Mia in Skate, he's getting a VTuber soon too. So we're gonna have up to 5, established anime voice actors that are gonna have VTubers as well. And I really want us all to interact and do things together. And that was the kind of a thing that motivated me. My VTuber is very much, I've noticed the trend in VTubing is to draw from Japanese lore, Japanese folklore, and Japanese history and things like that, something which I'm very fascinated by. However, I never studied that stuff growing up. I never really enjoyed that stuff growing up until I was like maybe 16 or 17. What I really was raised on was classic rock and comic books and action movies and like a lot of like mid-'80s, '90s Western entertainment. And I didn't see any representation in that in VTubing. So my VTuber is trying to be the world's greatest rock star. He's got a band, again, which the single is releasing tonight, Neon Fire. He is a kid, he's kind of like a subversion of I was born in the wrong time, right? So he streams from the year 2123 into the past. And people can come in and ask questions like, "Hey, has this changed? What's going on with this? Is Half-Life 3 out? Is Sonic still doing a thing? Are they doing another season of blank or whatever?" And I just make up BS answers, and it's funny. I get to engage in people and act with them and kind of expand on a lore and a universe. And because I'm streaming to the past, my character is very much some of his hobbies are like analog audio. Some of his hobbies are, since everything is digital in the future, he's like, oh, I need to get back and do these like reel-to-reels. I need to go back and figure out how I do these different pickups on a guitar and things like that. He likes to fiddle around with that stuff. So streaming to the past is huge for him because he can ask them questions and be this kind of like pseudo-archaeologist and figuring out new things to bring into the future. It was a lot of, it's a labor of love. I also have I have a graphic novel coming out, a 100-page colored graphic novel about my VTuber. That's like his lore and how he gets started with his band and how he broke up with his boyfriend. And there's like a cast of characters. We're gonna voice it eventually. One of the Kickstarter stretch goals is to get an animated OP done by Studio Pierrot in Japan. But yeah, there was a lot of things that kind of converged to me getting a VTuber, but I've had a blast doing it. I've streamed 12 hours a day for like 4 days in a row, and I've never done that. And I think the VTuber is something that kind of facilitated me doing that. But very good question. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a good one.
Yeah, you too, man.
What's been your favorite line to record in anything that you've been in? Could be funny, could be serious.
I think it's Tatsu swearing still. At any time, because Netflix gives you an allowance. Netflix is like, you can say 10 swear words. And just because there's like an advertising thing that they have to get with now, and there's like a lot of different variables and hoops they got to jump through. So whenever we record Tatsu, we record one pass with as much dirty like swearing as we can, and then we go back and we pare down and we're like, did this F-bomb land really well? If it didn't, we can take it out. Did this, did this swear word, I can't say swears, did this swear word land really well? And if it didn't, we'll take it out or change it around or move things one way or the other. But Tatsu swearing, it just sounds so funny. And there are a few things in Skate that I'm super proud of because they were all like improvised lines or lines that we've massaged from the translation. And a lot of it was the "You're too close" line was completely improvised. There was, it wasn't mine, but I'm proud of David Vald's Bros and Non-Binary. That was him. That was all him. That just shows you, like, 100%, that's just David. That's not a character. That character is just David directing something. He's great. But yeah, let's see. There are a few screams that I'm super proud of in Dying Light 2. They're like, this kid is dying. Like, this kid is going to die screams. There's a show that I can't talk about that I recently did. If you guys, the How I Got Reincarnated as a Slime movie, I voiced the I guess deuteragonist in that. Rimuru is broken, so they have to have another story about another character in the movie. Otherwise, Rimuru will just do everything. And I'm that character. But he has some moments in that show that I'm just like, I'm super proud of the way I performed that. Again, the movie isn't quite out yet in English, but you guys should go watch that. Let's see. And there's a lot of Beastars like monologues that I'm super proud of because a lot of Beastars stuff is off camera. There's no mouth flaps, which is very nice as an actor because you get to act. And I was able to just kind of chew the scenery, and with voice acting, that's something you want to do. On stage, chewing the scenery is probably not very, very smart, but in voice acting, chewing the scenery is you getting into it. People can hear that, and usually you want to go a little more than what you think. So I got that wonderful opportunity in Beastars. But there's a lot of stuff. I try and be proud of everything that I work on. There are a few things I'm not proud of. Let me tell you, there are a few things out there that you probably haven't even seen. But yeah, there's a lot of fun lines. I try and get something out of every role that I get cast as.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Sub or dub?
Sub or dub?
Yep.
So in Househusband, we recently, in the new season, there is an entire sketch where they argue sub or dub. And there's a sketch where, and Tatsu is sub all the way. I get to say, in an anime, I get to say, the performances of the original voice actors are better. As a dub actor, I get to say, the performances of the original voice actors are better. We were talking about this on my stream a while back. just casually, somebody brought it up in chat, and I'm like, let's talk about this. Legally, you're not really allowed to release any sort of physical media in the United States unless it has a dub, because that's a localization agreement. Like that's not just localization. That's there are people who are hearing impaired. There are people who they can't listen to the show, but they want to still enjoy the story. Or there are people who can't see the show, but they still want to enjoy the story. And then there's people that I want to clean the house and watch anime, and I can't watch and read the subtitles while I'm cleaning the house. I want to pick up my room. I want to work out while I'm watching Demon Slayer, and you can't watch Demon Slayer and do sit-ups at the same time. So it's an accessibility issue too. That's one way to go about it. But I mean, different strokes. There's people who like the sub and people who like the dub. And the people who like the dub will come to me and ask me about the dub, and the people who like the sub are SOL because the sub actors never come here. So you got me. No, but on a serious note, it doesn't matter. I have a job, I do my job, and I enjoy doing my job, and I like sharing what I do with everybody. I do my job for the audience, obviously, but I wouldn't be doing anime dub work or video game work if I wasn't an anime dub and video game fan. I watch DBZ Did anybody watch DBZ in sub? Yeah, I didn't think so. There are some way we get experience to that. I was a kid growing up. We watched Bebop, we watched DBZ, we watched Afro Samurai, we watched all kinds of other things dubbed, and it was almost exclusively dubbed. There was all these commercials late at night where you would order 1995 and get 2 VHSs with 4 episodes on them of a show you'll never get to finish. But it now only is starting to come into its own with the digital age and everything being accessible immediately with simuldubs and everything like that. There wasn't an issue. Sub or dub wasn't a thing back in late 80s, early 90s. The only reason it's an argument now is because you are able to access it immediately whenever you want, and if you have to wait, then that's the issue, right? So it's just whenever you want to watch the show. You want to watch it immediately? Go watch the sub. That's fine. If you love it enough, you'll come back and watch the dub.
Thank you.
Yeah, just watch what you want to watch, guys. Don't make it all an argument.
The question is, how did you get into in the mindset, get in the role of Legoshi from Beastars?
Well, I covered myself in glue, and then I had to put fur on all of my parts before I walked in the booth. No, Legoshi is a very complex character, and there are a lot of explanations. Trust me, if you have seen a video essay on YouTube about Legoshi, I've probably watched it. I did a lot of research, and I knew Beastars as a manga before I got the audition, right? And again, this was another thing where you're just this is such a complex character with so many layers to peel back that you can't screw this up. Because if you do, people are going to be able to notice, and they're going to be able to tell. I was very nervous at first because it was my first lead role. It was my first, time I was able to show people what I could do if you gave me, 15 minutes of solid talking in an episode. So it was a lot of nerves. But after about episode 2, I really started to settle into what I believed Legoshi was, which is just this nervous kid who really didn't know how to express his feelings, and he wanted beyond anything else in the world to help the people that were close to him. But a lot of the time, things got in the way, things came up, and he's struggling with a lot of stuff in his head. And that's something that, there's a lot of emotional recall there, but that's something that everybody deals with. We all are, right now, I'm struggling with things in my head about what I'm going to do when I get back, and I got work when I get back, and I got, the taxes and all kinds of other crap. But it's about channeling that and putting it into a way that people can understand. The words are given to us in so many things. I was able to take a lot of, again, Megan is wonderful, because she was it's people, bunny on the screen. I was able to take a lot of liberties with what I was able to do and say. I could put pre-life and post-life into a lot of the lines. I could put breathing into the lines. I could relax into the lines. I didn't have to do the anime thing, of making everything super high and super intense every time, all the time, I was able to bring it down. I was able to react accordingly. I was able to just, some of the anime reacts that we had, I was able to just breathe instead, I was able to just be like, huh, and have it more subtle, like actually have a real human reaction, despite this person being an 8-foot tall wolf. But yeah, he grew on me more than I thought that he would. I sent it in the audition, and I thought, that would be nice. And then, little did I know, it didn't go just to me. It didn't go just to the person that cast me. It went to Netflix, and then it went to Paru in Japan. And one of the most heartfelt emails I ever got was from Netflix Japan saying in so many words, we can find no other actor to play this character than him. And I was like, oh my God, I can't screw this up. It's like, more pressure. But it made me cry. I was like, this is the first time I'm doing anything that has to do with anime dubs, and I'm getting such a response from Netflix Japan, and that really warmed my heart. And it did make me nervous, but it also made me realize that, okay, maybe me just being me is enough for this character. Maybe I don't have to study and learn and keep reading more and more and more and doing more and more practice. And there's a story, Griffin Poitou, who voices Louis, he came over to my apartment and we blocked out scenes as though we were doing it on a stage, which, and in hindsight is a little extra, but because nobody was ever going to see that. But it really did, what that eventually did was let me hear what he was going to do as Louis. I was able to hear some of the reads he was able to do, what his timbre would be, what his cadence in speaking is, and then I could respond to that in kind in the booth. So while we didn't use any of the blocking, we were able to connect and make the performance a little more human, because acting is living as if you're in a moment with somebody else or by yourself. So you have to react to the other person or react to your emotions. And having somebody else to play off in a dub, in a booth, that's not just in your head, being able to see them right there for that small amount of practice that we did was actually huge. So yeah, that was that little pre-gaming that we had to do to get into Legoshi's head was actually super beneficial. So hopefully that answered your question.
Thank you.
You're welcome, man. Thank you.
Tatsu gives like 110% energy on everything he does. Like, as you were talking about earlier with the cutting board, or even just talking about vegetables, or like, heck, even like the very beginning, he peeks out the doors like association fees.
Yeah, exactly.
How do you think you're able to like take that energy he puts into the most mundane things and apply it to your own life?
Yeah, actually, I learned a lot reading Way of the Househusband, not just about caring for yourself, but about being what it means to be a man in modern society, and especially in Japan, where a lot of the duties in the Japanese. I'm not an expert, okay? I don't consider myself an expert or a professor in any of this, but the duties in the Japanese household are kind of separated differently. The wife is usually the one that takes care of the pocketbook. The husband brings home the money, and the wife takes care of purchases in the house. We need a new rice maker. We need to make sure that the renovations are being taken care of, and the husband worries about making the money. So being able to take gender norms like that and then turn them upside down and put this skin on top of it that appeals to kids, that are 14 to 18, they're like, oh my gosh, he's really cool, right? He's cool when he's sweeping. He's cool when he's cooking dinner for his wife. He's really cool when he does that stuff. So being able to give that to kids that may be questioning, gender stuff, and giving them that kind of person to look at and be like, this is all made up. You can do whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. And having that turned on its head is really cool for me. So being able to give that to people, being able to perform that, and showing that, yeah, you can be hyper masculine while doing things that are traditionally viewed as feminine. And it really screws with a lot of people. I've read some really weird comments online of people that just don't understand what the show's trying to do or what the manga's trying to do, and that's okay. It's not for you. Doesn't have to be for everybody. But I really do think that was my motivation, again, going into Tatsu was I want to make sure that people are like, I think I want to cook a steamed bun right now. It seems really neat. I want to work with yeast. I want to clean my windows and beat out my rugs and act like I'm interrogating somebody or something like that, you know? So yeah, that's the motivation there.
Love it. And also, congratulations on VO to Go. Love it.
Hey, thanks. Guys, please watch VO to Go. It's hilarious. It's me and Alex Lee screwing around in Burbank. That's all it is, with like memes. We just edit a bunch of memes into it. Yeah.
What do you want your legacy to be?
What do I want my legacy to be? I almost thought you said, what do I want my Legoshi to be? But that kind of works, but doesn't. My legacy. Oh my God, I'm 29. My legacy. I want to be. I don't want to look back and see how many roles I've had. I don't want it to be a number, you know? I don't want to look back and be like, on my deathbed, I'm not going to look back and say, I was 789 characters. That's silly. I want to look back and see friendships that I made. I want to look back and see people that I was able to emotionally get a touching response from. I want to look back and see all the people in line waiting to talk to me for autographs. That still blows my mind. I've only been doing this like a year and a half. So all this stuff, you know, the handshake, you know, ceremonies and things like that, it's crazy for me to comprehend. It's kind of coming through a slow filter for me. But I'm just a guy. I was in college like 7 years ago. I'm just a dude. So I want my legacy to be like, I want people to, you know, appreciate my work, but I want them to appreciate me as a person more, and I want that to come through in my work. You know, that like characters like Joe and Akihiko and Legoshi, I feel like have a lot of me in them. There's a lot of character voice stuff in them, and depositing little bits of myself across my legacy as you know, having any number of characters is probably what I want to try and leave behind. But I again am 29 and been doing this a year and a half, so I'm thinking more moving forward, less reflective moving back. But my legacy would be the friends I made along the way.
Thank you.
Say, if you had all the characters you'd voiced in a room, who comes out crying first, and who made them cry?
Who comes out crying first? I mean, I don't think I've seen Legoshi cry, like heaving cry, but I feel like he'd be the one to get closest. He'd be like, yo, that's mean. Like, that's, why did you do that? And, okay, so the most, at least until now, but the most antagonistic person I've ever played was in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure. Formaggio is terrible. He is an awful person. He is a terrible, terrible, bad, smelly man. He is awful. So he would probably have made whoever was in there cry, but I know for a fact Joe could kick his butt. I know for a fact Katakuri could kick everybody in that room's butt. Like, yeah. So I feel like the weakest one emotionally, and I mean he's going through some crap. He's cracked, right? So Legoshi would probably be the one that left. But you know, I have a few, like, for lack of a better term, normal human characters that would. I mean, Adam from Record of Ragnarok is pretty strong in his own right. Let's see, a few others. Sniper Mask is just a normal human dude, I guess, to some extent, except he can like shoot things pretty easily. But yeah, I feel like eventually, once they kicked all the like villains out of the room, they'd all be friends. Easy. Yeah, you just got to get the villain.
Along the way.
Yeah, the friends they made along the way. Exactly.
Thank you so much.
That was a great question. Thank you.
So, I've known you since you've been tiny, like really small in the acting business, and I was a fan since the very beginning of Jonah, which is very weird to say because I'm really weird into like the whole VA industry and kind of just I'm
weird. It's just a niche hobby.
It's very niche, and my friends make fun of me for it.
Hey,
but I
tell
kind
me
of
shut up.
I do, and they don't listen to me. But I've watched you since the very beginning from a lot of your stuff that you don't like to admit that you've done,
Thank
but you
you. That's very
still
kind of
enjoy
you.
it. And I just want to know, how has it been feeling kind of growing up from the little baby Jonah to now being in Legoshi and being as just how crazy you are now?
I used to, this is a bit of a tangent, but I used to play League of Legends semi-professionally in college.
You main?
I was an AD carry, but I would top off and then jungle off. I never touched mid. I hate playing mid. It was awful. It's too much responsibility. But I was pretty good. But if you told college Jonah, like freshman year, I thought the greatest thing I'd ever do would be playing League of Legends semi-professionally. I'm like, this is it. I hit the top. This is my career. Hi, here we go.
Dad, I'm gonna be a League player.
Yeah, mom, dad, I'm gonna be a professional video game player and make zero money and hope my stream kicks off. No, if you told Jonah, who was playing League 12 hours a day, back when he was like 18, that he would be doing anything like this, he would tell you to shut up and go back to playing League of Legends. I did not anticipate any of this. A lot of the risk of me moving to LA and sleeping on a floor for a year and a half was like just that. I didn't have any runway. I didn't know what I was gonna do. I had a suitcase full of clothes. I had a futon on my friend's floor, and I had, the contacts that I would make through them and the classes that I would take. And I knew I had a decent voice and I could do commercials, and that was about where my confidence took me. All this character work and the wonderful, like, the fun anime and video game stuff that I've gotten to do, completely by surprise. I didn't think I was going to voice Aiden in Dying Light 2, a AAA action RPG protagonist. I did not think I would, no, not at all. I thought they would use me for temporary voice work and then go and find, another person who has a similar timbre than me and, is on a list rather than me. But I moved to LA to prove a point to them. I'm like, hey, I'm taking this seriously. And I booked Legoshi, and I was able to tell them, hey, look, I'm taking this seriously. I have, this number. You can use me as a method of like promoting your game and your shows or something like that. And I'm actually trying to do this for a living. I wasn't able to do it for a living until about, 8 months ago. But
takes time.
Yeah, I would beg for pizza on Twitch. Like I would. No cap. Like people would send me pizza, and that's how I would.
I remember that occasionally on your streams because I used to watch your streams, like when you weren't doing like VTubing or anything, when it was still just you sitting at your house. It was just the weird chaos that was.
Exactly, and I continue to bring forth the chaos. But yeah, I am stunned and honored and humbled, and any number of words that say I don't deserve this, but I'm going to try and make every single one of you proud with my performances. My goal initially was to make my dad proud of me, but me paying rent was enough for him. So now I got to make you guys proud of me.
Thank you so much. Also, my last words as I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Thanks for the question. You're really sweet. Thank you so much.
What character that you voiced is like your most favorite one that you were very motivated to actually voice act? Like, I know that there's characters that you have fun with, but what was the one character that you really just felt excited and motivated each time that you went in to record?
Aiden in Dying Light 2. I had been a part of that game's development. I had say in certain parts of the story. I wasn't able to like change the story in major ways because in modern game development, the gameplay informs a lot of what the story can do and vice versa. So they all have to be on the same wavelength. But I was able to, in the booth, because it was a Polish game, Dying Light 2, Dying Light, Cyberpunk 2077, The Witcher 3, those were all originally recorded and made in Polish. And then they were brought abroad to be given voice actors in some way, whether it's a dub, whether it's a localization of the script, what have you. So we got a localization of the script, and my good friend David Bergantino, who was a Hollywood screenwriter, was brought on to make sure that everything worked on the script, not like narratively from a constructive standpoint, but like on the script, everything looked good and sounded good. And me and him worked really well together because we were able. I'm inspired by a lot of other voice actors who voice action RPG protagonists, people like Matthew Mercer, and they're becoming friends of mine, honestly. And I'm learning a lot from them. And one of the things that I learned is making things real and grounded and giving pre and post life. And one reason, Techline told me one reason they brought me in was because of that expertise that I had, because a lot of the other actors that they would audition, and they auditioned a lot of other actors, they would do video game voices, which is like, a little bit over the top, flat delivery. And I was one of the few people that had like character and life to the voices. And they made Aiden, this was super humbling when I went over to Poland a while ago to like meet the devs and do some filming and things like that. And they made Aiden look like me. After a certain amount of development, they started like, they didn't do a likeness or anything. We didn't do a 3D facial capture or whatever, but they took my headshots and they're like, we got to make him look, dark features. He's got to make sure he looks like the actor. And that was wild to think about because I saw the first 3D render of Aiden and I'm like, holy crap, this is happening. What? So at that point, I had a massive buy-in and I'm like, okay, we're gonna make this, I'm gonna act my off and we're gonna make this, I want this to sound amazing. And a lot of the praise for the game has been Aiden's vocal direction, which was me, Keith Farley, who is a directing god. He's directed, a bunch of video games, Modern Warfare, Final Fantasy, and he's so nice. Invited me to his house to drink whiskey with him after we were done with the game. And I was like, holy, I'm drinking whiskey with Keith Farley, But yeah, Aiden and continuing even into DLC, they're committed to making that game for 5 more years. Like I got that, hopefully, I have work for 5 years, and I'm going to try and put as much more of myself into that as possible. I really want to make sure that you guys are taken care of as gamers, because I'm a gamer too. Thank you for your question.
Oh. Give it up for Mr. Jonah Scott, everybody.